Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland. And on this week's show, we're going to be continuing our what seems like a never-ending track through all of the Coen Brothers films, and leading up now into 2009's A Serious Man, which might be the most personal film that the Coen Brothers have ever made. And we're getting to the end there because we only have True Grit, Inside Llewyn Davis, Hail Caesar, and The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. This makes me sad. I'm going to be sad when we get to the end here, but I'm very excited to be talking about A Serious Man. But before I get ahead of myself, we have our three segments on this show. We're starting with coming attractions, and then we'll get into our feature of the week, and then some Q&A. I'm flying solo this week after a couple of weeks of having some guests, which was really exciting and I enjoyed. I know at least next week with True Grit, I'm going to be having my significant other Jess back on, which that's her favorite film. So I'm very excited about that. And Robert from Sif Pop is going to be joining me for Inside Llewyn Davis. If you're interested in joining for Hail Caesar, or if you're interested in joining for The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, let me know. Or even adding on to those other shows with True Grit and Inside Llewyn Davis. But enough shamelessly plugging, let's jump into the show. Coming attractions for this week of May 14th, we have a couple of films coming out, including The Woman in the Window, finally coming out on Netflix. We also have Spiral from the Book of Saw. Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson in a Saw film. Honestly, I did not like the first Saw movie and have never watched any of the other ones. But I'm kind of interested in Spiral. But neither of those films can overcome how excited I am for Those Who Wish Me Dead. And this is the new film from writer-director Taylor Sheridan. So any of you who know me know how much I love Taylor Sheridan, whether it's his screenplay for Sicario, or his screenplay for Hell or High Water, or Wind River. So I'm very excited. I know he worked on Tom Clancy's Without Remorse, and you have Yellowstone. Here we have him in the director's chair and writing again with a teenage murder witness finds himself pursued by two assassins in the Montana wilderness, with a survival expert tasked with protecting him, and a forest fire threatening to consume them all. If having assassins chasing after you wasn't bad enough, throw in a forest fire. This sounds so Taylor Sheridan. I am so ready. I watched the featurette for it. I loved what Sheridan was talking about. I love the perspective that the actors were sharing, including Angelina Jolie, who plays the survival expert, Tyler Perry, and John Bernthal, who seem to be playing some form of like police or law enforcement. Also, fun little side fact, I might be the only one who finds this amusing, but John Bernthal's character in this is named Ethan. John Bernthal played Shane in Walking Dead. So basically, both my brother and my names have been used in this. Also, fun little fact, my brother's name is Ethan Shane Kanto. Yeah. So looking at this film, not only you had Tyler Perry and John Bernthal thrown in there, but it looks like our two assassins are played by Nicholas Hoult and Aidan Gillen, which they're both very talented actors. Nicholas Holt's a little bit more hit or miss for me, but I really love Aidan Gillen, especially as Littlefinger, obviously from Game of Thrones. But Nicholas Hoult is very talented, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. I like to see Tyler Perry in something more like this. I'm a huge fan of John Bernthal, so that gets me really excited. And I'm very interested in seeing Angelina Jolie in this film. You have this, and you're going to have Eternals. So it might be a career acting renaissance for Angelina Jolie, because I'm going to double check this, but I can't even remember what the hell. Oh, it was Maleficent. And she voiced one of the characters in The One and Only Ivan. And then she had Come Away, which was that Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland hybrid kind of remake and reimagining. But she really hasn't been doing a whole lot. She was also in Maleficent, the second one, which I'm pretty sure I fell asleep in. But looking at this film, Taylor Sheridan's name on here just gets me excited. The story seems awesome and exciting and exhilarating, and this has a really strong cast that I'm excited about. So all of those things point towards I'm very excited for those who wish me dead. So hopefully this is as great as some of other Taylor Sheridan's work, and I'm on board. Now, shifting gears into our feature of the week, we have A Serious Man. And what I have to say is this is probably one of the least mainstream accessible Coen Brothers films. A lot of their films are like you have that comedy to at least hook people in, even though it's really quirky and it's their humor or it's really dark. You also have like No Country for Old Men and like The Big Lebowski and Fargo and films like this. They all have exciting elements to them or intrigue. This is very much a very human and very Jewish experience. And that's why it's so personal with the Coen brothers being from Minnesota, being Jewish. And you have Larry Gopnik, a Midwestern physics teacher, watches his life unravel over multiple sudden instances, though seeking meaning and answers amidst his turmoils, he seems to keep sinking. And that's such an interesting thing in this film. And taking a look at our film here, it starts off with a very interesting prologue. And you have this Jewish couple, and all of a sudden, this stranger comes by. This man who's supposed to be dead. And there's a mystery here. The wife is very skeptical. Is this a Dybbuk? Is this an evil spirit coming into their home? And he seems like such an innocent old man. And then all of a sudden, she stabs him in the chest. And he begins to laugh and laugh, but then bleed out. And you sit there wondering, was he? And what this opening sequence really sets up here, I think this film focuses so much on morality and life and existentialism and where life's really taking us and who we are as people. And there's a lot of dream sequences in this film. There's a lot of questioning. There's strange occurrences. There's a lot of philosophical conversations. And you start off with this intro, which is so great. And you start off with a very, like the credits, very traditional, ominous kind of music. And then it starts transitioning to Somebody to Love by Jefferson Airplane, which really captures this film because you have generations in this film. You have this traditional Jewish family, this nuclear family, and you have the son, who's such a big character in the film. And he is sitting there in class in Jewish school, listening to Jefferson Airplane. He gets it taken away from him. And he has to become a man. He needs to grow up. And so much of this film, you spend time with different rabbi. And we'll get to the different rabbi as we go through the show today. But you have this sense of what's life about? What's life? What's the meaning? Are we supposed to just be the best people that we can be? And we have this focus, this very Jewish film, so deeply rooted in the Jewish faith and Jewish culture. And you have this thing between being a good man and making the right choices. And will life pay off for you if you do? And what it means to be a serious man. And you have Michael Stuhlbarg, who is amazing in this film. I wish he got nominated for Best Actor. He got the Golden Globe nomination for, I'm assuming, musical and comedy. This is a comedy, but it is very much a drama. And there's funny moments, there's quirky moments. It's a Coen Brothers film, of course. You watch No Country for Old Men. Should be like the darkest thing ever. Still laugh. And this film is so poignant. Michael Stuhlbarg captures this kind, good man who has roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, challenge after challenge after challenge, turmoil after turmoil thrown on him, and you see him crumbling throughout this whole film, and he portrays that so perfectly. It is so meaningful and relatable. You just feel for him so much. I can't stand watching him suffer anymore throughout this film. And you start off, he is getting an x-ray, and you don't see much of it, don't think much of it. And how that all the way comes back at the end, which we'll talk about the ending. Obviously, we spoil things here on Welcome to the Wasteland. So if you haven't watched A Serious Man and you really want to be like engrossed and not know what's going on, go watch it and come back to my obnoxiously passionate thoughts about this film, because I remember watching it for the first time and just kind of flying under the radar and not being my favorite, near my favorite Coen Brothers film. But every time I watch it now, it becomes more ingrained in me and more meaningful in me. And I just connect with it. And I think it's a matter of maturing, because when I watched this, I was in college. And of course, I love The Big Lebowski and No Country for Old Men. But this is like this and Inside Llewyn Davis, which is interesting that they come so close together, are so deep character studies and are philosophical in so many ways that it's like you need to really appreciate this. And this is why I say this is their least mainstream accessible kind of film. But you just get this appreciation through this film. You have such a great cast, and we'll get to talking about some of the other cast members. We have Richard Kind, who is Stuhlbarg's brother, and he's such a big character. And I just love him. And he has this like goiter on the back of his neck, and he's getting in trouble for gambling and sodomy. And it's this thing where it's like this black cloud is so engulfing of Michael Stuhlbarg's character in this. And his brother is like this wearing thing on him. And it's one of his challenges, and it feels like one of his trials. But thank God Deakins was back for this, because this is a beautifully shot film with wonderful shadows, lovely, just deep, rich textures to the colors, and this period setting, because this takes place in the 60s, and you just feel everything of the production design in it, and it's works so perfectly. It has that classic Coen Brothers look to it, with Deakins being there. Lebowski did a great job with Burn After Reading, and there's things in there that really work. This, I just love seeing Deakins back and having this richness to everything on screen. And one of my low-key favorite characters in any Coen Brothers movie, Cy Abelman, Fred Melamed. He is a serious man. And you just have him, Larry, I'm here for you. I have this wine. It's beautiful. Would you like some? And just the way that he speaks and this connection that he makes with all these characters, and the way he just pulls in Larry for a hug, or to calm down, count to 10. And he just puts his hand on both of Michael Stuhlbarg's hands, and the discomfort level in this film in so many places, the interactions Cy Abelman has, Fred Melamed's great, Michael Stuhlbarg is great. They're just so great together. Their chemistry on screen is great. The discomfort of him holding his big mitt of a hand on both of Michael Stuhlbarg's hands and just holding it, and how the camera just fixates on it, and how his grip tightens as he's like, 3, silent 4. And he just starts counting, and there's just like an intensity here. Just like you can just feel how uncomfortable Michael Stuhlbarg is. You can feel how uncomfortable he is when his pal from the 10-year committee comes in and he's just having an existential crisis. And this man, poor guy, is just so awkward, just being like, I didn't need to hear this. And like, he's basically having a confession. He's like, I only went to this movie once. It wasn't even that erotic. And the guy's just like, oh, I don't need to know this. And you have those moments, and throughout the whole entire film with Deacon's back, you also have Carter Burwell's score, which is so somber and emotive and just rich in the way that it makes you feel. And you have these different meetings with the rabbis, and you have the first rabbi who's a young rabbi, and Michael Stuhlbarg is skeptical of speaking to this young man who does not have the same experience that he has. And it's Howard from The Big Bang Theory. And then you have, I actually want to make sure that I mention this actor's name because he pops up in quite a few things that I recognize, and I really appreciate him. Trying to find George Weiner. He's Colonel Sanders from Spaceballs. He's the second rabbi, and he tells this great story, which is so well shot with the use of like the Jimi Hendrix music over it as he's speaking. It's like, and it's kind of weirdly like Luis telling a story in Ant-Man. It's like it's Weiner's voice over the character's voice of this man finding imprints of these Hebrew letters inside a man's teeth. And he tells this whole entire story. And Michael Stuhlbarg is like, I need an answer. Why did you say this story? What's the meaning of this? And that his struggle with just the thoughts and inquiries of faith and ideas of everything, it's so challenging to him and he can't stand it. And it puts him in a place. And then you have the final rabbi who won't meet with Michael Stuhlbarg, but meets with the son when he has his bar mitzvah. And when he starts quoting Jefferson Airplane to the kid, and they're like, what comes after? And he hands him his radio back. And he's like, be a good boy. And that's, I love that moment. It's one of my, it's weirdly one of my favorite moments in Coen Brothers films. It's so wonderful. And the faith that this rabbi has in this young man, and the faith that he has in the future, and him moving forward with this new modern music and everything, I appreciate. But one of the weirdest and most technically sound scenes in this whole film is the car accident. This montage, the cross-cutting between Larry and Cy in their own cars, and how it starts like picking up between cutting. It builds that tension, and then bam, Larry gets in this car accident. And then in the next scene, you find out Cy died in a car accident, and you're just like, what? And Larry's even just like, what? And everybody, his kids are so matter of fact about it, and he's just so taken back. Like everything is just piling on top of this guy. And to add some layers, this Clive character, this student in his class who is trying to bribe him for a better grade on his midterm, and these temptations, there's all these great Dutch angles throughout the film, disorienting us, and it's really capturing the psyche of Larry at this point. And you have these dream sequences of him having sex with his very attractive neighbor, this woman, him trying to get his brother off to Canada, and these like really white American, like Aryan looking family man guy hunting, and it's like, there's another Jew, and trying to shoot Larry, and just like these crazy dreams that he's having that are coming back to bite him. And it all comes to a head because Larry is spiraling and his son's moving up, and his son seems to be in a good place, but Larry finds out, and it's so karmic. And that's the thing, there's a lot of karma going on in this film, which I thought was very interesting. Larry gets told he reached tenure. Not explicitly, but. And then he looks at his grade book and he gives in. He ups the grade of Clive, and then immediately, like that, gets a phone call about that X-ray from the beginning of the film, something you completely forgot about. Doesn't seem good. And the last we see of Larry, as clouds form in the background, and then there's a tornado warning, and there's a tornado coming right for his son and his classmates. And that's where this film leaves you. This is like No Country for Old Men level of just bam, there's your ending. And I can see, yet again, why this is one of the least mainstream accessible Coen Brothers films. But that instant karma is heartbreaking. And it really makes you question how important it is to be a good person. And this film is challenging in the sense that it challenges Larry from start to finish, these trials. And will he be a good man? Will he meet that challenge? His wife wants to leave him for a more serious man, Fred Mettleman. His wife wants to leave him. His kids don't seem to have a great connection with him. He's just floating here. He's like chained down with his brother. And you have all this going on. And will Larry do the right thing? He doesn't really at the end. And some horrible things happen. And it's dark. It's a dark ending. But it's so poignant in what it's trying to say and come back for you. And I love A Serious Man. It is such an introspective and incredible character study with great characters. It's a Coen Brothers film, so of course it's going to have great characters. But in the end, I just love this film to pieces. I love every moment of it. And I highly recommend giving this one a chance. But those are my thoughts on A Serious Man. So go check it out and comment. Let me know what you think. Or if you've seen the film, let me know your thoughts on the film. I loved it. It's definitely, this and Barton Fink have slowly creeped up my list of favorite Coen Brothers films. The more I watch them, the more I fall in love with them. But moving on then to our questions for the week. To celebrate the release of Guy Ritchie's new Wrath of Man, I wanted to answer what my favorite Guy Ritchie film is. And Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch are arguably his best work. He had those big budget things with like Sherlock Holmes and King Arthur, Legend of the Sword and such, and Aladdin, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. But I love The Gentleman. And I've seen it a couple of times already. I love the characters. The cast is amazing. And it's so Guy Ritchie. And Matthew McConaughey, it's like just the cool confidence that he has. And in the jungle, the lion eats. And you have Charlie Hunnam. It's just like, didn't kill him. The gravity killed him. And just Charlie Hunnam's never better than I feel like in that film, that and Lost City of Zed. Hugh Grant is Fletcher. Come play with me, Raymond. I just love him in this film, and I love how he's leaning into those kinds of roles. And then you have Colin Farrell as Coach. Oh, come on, make it sharp. Cut me with it. And him just encouraging these little crap heads who are trying to like strong arm him at like some kind of food eatery. And all the characters, Eddie Marson and Jeremy Strong, and I forget off the top of my head the actress who plays Matthew McConaughey's wife, but she is great too. And Harry Golding, just everybody is so great in The Gentleman, such amazing characters, and I was on the edge of my seat. What's going to happen? Who's going to make it out alive? I just love every moment of it. It's him really firing on that gangster movie, Guy Ritchie style, with an amazing cast. I love it to pieces. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch are close, but for me, The Gentleman is definitely my favorite. And Who's my favorite screenwriter working today? And I could easily say the Coen brothers, but I really wanted to use this time to gush a little bit more about Ty Sheridan. Not Ty Sheridan, Taylor Sheridan. Taylor Sheridan with Sicario, which is an intense and gripping screenplay. Hell or High Water, the characters, the world building, the same with Wind River, Yellowstone. What I love so much, there's a ruggedness about their stories. There's a lawlessness about their stories. There's getting lost in a whole different kind of world. You see a Ty Sheridan film written by him, and it feels like you're getting transported into a different world. And I love that about it. There's something special about it. And I get lost in this Native American culture in Wind River. In Sicario, this lawless, dark, deeply ingrained, sinister world. Hell or High Water, this lawlessness of this Texas feeling of like you have the Texas Rangers, but those people, it's like hate the banks. Hell or High Water, they're gonna get them their money. And like the people won't even rat to the cops about these robberies, even though they know who did it. And those kinds of characters, just world building, just everything about them is so great. And that's why I'm so excited for those who wish me dead. I just love Taylor Sheridan, the characters he creates, the stories that he makes, the world building that he does, and how we get lost in this different culture. And I just love the neo-Western sensibility that he brings to everything. I'm a huge Western fan, and I love neo-Westerns, whether it's No Country for Old Men or even like a Three Billboards has that kind of like lawlessness about it. But like really, everything Taylor Sheridan has written really captures that, except for maybe Tom Clancy Without Remorse. That doesn't really have like a neo-Western feel to it, very much a military kind of feel. But Hell or High Water, Sicario, Wind River, Yellowstone, all has it. And I love them. So I'm really looking forward to those who wish me dead and anything else Taylor Sheridan's going to be a part of. But those are my two questions for this week. Obviously, didn't go as long as last week talking about the Oscars with Aaron. But I hope you enjoyed this week's show. And I hope that I turned you on to a great film like A Serious Man. And I look forward to having you here next week when I get to sit down with Jess and talk a little bit about her favorite film and one of my favorite Westerns, 2010's The Coens' True Grit. But thank you for tuning in and hopefully getting some inspiration to check out some movies. But I always want to do is this. Thank all of you for tuning in and always supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.